Well, autumn is definitely upon us. Definitely. But my garden continues to look pretty good. It is a time of decay in the garden when plants are dying away. You have to expect this and embrace it. Don't hate it. I know a lot of people aren't keen on autumn, and a lot of people love it. I'm a big grass man, as you're all aware. All the regular followers are aware that I like my grasses. And at this time of year, this is why. Because they continue the show. Absolutely beautiful. The colours this year have been amazing, and I'm putting that down to a wet spring and then quite a dry summer really. So we end up with really nice colours. Not everybody realises how nice the grasses can look at this time of year as well. All the colours that are within them. That does vary, by the way, from year to year. Again, based on the weather. This has got some lovely oranges in it, this one. This is a Miscanthus Beth Chatto. That's a beauty. We've got a geranium here. This is Canterbury-ensis Cambridge. And it's still doing well. It's never stopped flowering. Doing really well. So we've still got flowers in the garden. And then one of the asters. Iso Murasaki. Looking really good. But don't forget, and I always say this at this time of year, seed heads. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. That eupatorium there, look at it. Looks fantastic. At this time of year. It's the browns. And the different shades of brown, even moving into gold, that look really good. It keeps interest in the garden if you've got this type of plant. Even something as simple as the Rudbeckia. Look at those dark seed heads. Absolutely fantastic. This clump here came from one single plant some years back. I've been splitting and dividing this plant for some years, and I've got loads of it now. I've got loads in pots as well. But it keeps the show going. And if the weather continues to be okay, then we keep getting flowers on it. They keep opening up, the ones that are there. Oh, I can hear a robin. Robins are returning into the garden. Is it a robin? Let's have a look. No, it's not. It's a hedge sparrow, so it's a dunnock. It's in there, in that viburnum. What's it seen? It's seen something. Anyway, it's in that viburnum bodnan tent, and that viburnum bodnan tent started flowering about a month ago. And it is now absolutely full of flowers. Heavily scented as well. So if you're looking for something with a scent at this time of year, that would be a good one to get. It's not the only one, but it's the only one I've got at the moment. That's why the dunnock's calling out, because Hamish has made an appearance. Yeah, he'll never get it. Melinias, look at that. Beautiful. How many times have I said about Melinias? They're getting to this, I call it a butter yellow. It's a golden yellow as well, but it's fantastic. Especially on a misty day, that looks fantastic. And when the dew hits it as well. You've got to get closer to see that on the actual seed heads. But it's beautiful. I love it. You can't fail to be impressed by that colour. This acanthus, which is rue laden, is practically evergreen. So if you're looking for evergreens, that would be a nice choice. It's a white one as well. There are quite a few white ones, but rue laden is the one I've got, and it's quite nice, and it's very tall. It's up to 5 foot. Another grass there, looking really nice. Seed heads on this one. This is Cosmopolitan, and it has the large pink flower heads. I was hoping that was going to be a bit further along, a bit sooner, but it is where it is. So as we get into autumn, we need to be thinking about evergreen plants. This is an English yew, Taxus piccata David, and it's gone more green at the moment, and it will go back to a kind of yellowing. So there you go. Nice evergreens. Got to think of evergreens. Just the simple box edging. like what I've got here. In fact, I've just realised I have not pruned this one. I'm trying to make it form a cloud type pruning, but the plants around it will dictate whether that will actually happen, because we've got a nice bamboo here that's looking really good now, and that is set to get a bit wider. But it's an obelisk, so it'll always be upright. Should be good. Very nice. Fatsia japonica. I love Fatsia japonica. Some people are a little bit snobby still about Fatsia japonica, as I always say. They think it's a little bit common. Maybe it is. Does that matter? It's a good plant. It does really require a bit of protection, or at least plant it in an area where you know it's not going to get battered by winds, because it will help it along. This one's doing really well. This is about the best one I've ever had, to be quite honest. Over all the years that I've been growing this is probably the better one. So that's a nice plant to have, and it's virtually evergreen. Now, if it does get knocked back, which it will at some point, or it could at some point get knocked back, it will come back every time. You just simply chop it down and it'll start again. And it grows fairly quick, so you won't be long without it. And it's flowering at the minute, which is good for late season pollinators. If there's any around at this time of year, they will get to drink the pleasures of this flower itself. Beautiful. Just looking for signs of any damage. If you get any damaged bits, take them off. Don't wait till the end of winter for that. Take them off now. So that's nice. I've got another one over here. I'm not that happy keeping it there, to be quite honest. I put it there because practically nothing else will grow in here. So I planted that, and it's actually starting to look okay, even though it doesn't on this film. I appreciate how it does look at the minute. It is looking okay compared to what it was. I've put some good soil in there, so it should help it. But to be honest, I don't think it wants to be there. It's right next to the hedge, and I think that should have more of a starring role rather than be part of a hedge. So we may just move that. We may change its location. In fact, as I'm talking, I've got a gap here, and I did plant some hawthorn seedlings in there and forgot about them, and every now and again I have to go around the garden spraying off weeds because there's just too much garden to be able to hand weed everything. And I sprayed off these hawthorn seedlings, so actually one looks like it might be okay, but basically I've killed them. They're too small. And I could put the Fatsia japonica there because it does like a dark location. Takes it quite well, so actually it might pay me to put it about here. I reckon that'll look all right there. Yeah, we'll give that some thought. The nook, I ain't visited the nook for quite a while, to be honest, because really there's not a lot that goes on in the nook apart from what grows, and I don't spend as much time as I used to spend in here because I'm messing about with other sections all the time. Yeah, and because I have got so much garden to be messing about with, I don't have time for it all the time, so I don't sit in here as much as I used to in the early days. But it's developing nicely on its own, and if you do it right in any part of your garden, then you don't really need to worry about it. You just let it get on with it and leave it alone, and every now and again you'll walk into that area and it will surprise you how far on it's come. And this surprises me. Looking brilliant. Just waiting for this viburnum to get going a bit bigger, because it will get to about 8 foot, this one. And it has struggled because of where it was originally. But it's well, actually, to be quite honest with you, that's probably 4 or 5 times bigger than when I bought it. So it's doing really well. And that's Cinnamomifolium. And it'll make a lovely shrub. And it's next to that euphorbia, whistleberry garnet, that I put there some time back, and that's looking good now. I just love it. I got really worried about that. I've always loved the plant itself, but I got worried when I planted it elsewhere in the garden where it wanted to romp away, because one of the parents are robbii, and that's a known invasive species, so you've got to be careful. But this is proving to be a little bit more contained. It's looking good. So we'll leave that alone for now, but I will be hacking a little bit of it away from the viburnum at some point. This is lovely. Never thought I'd manage to keep it out all winter without it suffering a load of damage. But again, because I've put it somewhere good, it's managing to hang on, and it's virtually evergreen. As I said, get some evergreens in for winter now. Often I do this just to test it, and if it drops away, great, but otherwise I just leave it alone, and that leaf will eventually drop. It'll look after itself, to be quite honest. So the nook is looking very nice indeed. Yeah, going back to the old Fatsia japonica there, I reckon it would look good in that gap. I think it'll look fantastic. Yeah, I could move that in the next day, actually. Now I'm thinking about it, I'm thinking, well, come back in another 2 hours, that'll probably have been moved. An advantage of being in the nook is getting that view of that miscanthus, and it's taken on some lovely autumn colours. They were better actually a month ago, even 2 months ago they were better coloured. But the decay of autumn in the garden, this is what happens, but this is what we have to expect. Nevertheless beautiful. This telegraph pole pergola walk is brilliant. I have lots of features in this garden, as you're aware, and I always say you've got to have some sort of a man-made feature to make sense of it. I know there are a lot of plants people out there who just want plants, but you're doing yourself an injustice by not adding something to it. Something like this adds interest all the way through autumn and winter and takes it through, and then when spring comes it offers something else. It just looks great. That's Miscanthus memory. It's been looking fantastic, and again we're in the decay. I'll try not to repeat the word decay too many times, but we're at that phase, and this is looking great. There's Kathy's arbour seat at the back there, which is very nice. Again, we don't sit in that enough, but it offers something to the garden. It looks absolutely wonderful, and that was just made from a few bits of wood. Well, I say a few bits of wood, quite a lot of wood, but not hard to make. Another one of my projects. This bamboo's looking a bit sorry for itself, but it is that time of year when it tends to look a bit sad. It's Thamna calmus, this one, and it's beautiful. It's okay. Loads of life in it. It's not going to die. It's just the way it looks at this time of year. Oh, finally, this is coming into its autumn colour, but I don't think it's going to do it quick enough because some of it's already going brown. And if it turns quick enough, it goes a really vivid orange. Don't think that's going to make it. I think some of it might. Some of it will go orange, some of it will go a yellow colour. But I don't think it's going to look as good as it could. Never mind. Never mind. We get a nice view of that acer there. You see why I put it there now. It hangs over that little section, the black section underneath. That's the Japanese garden looking good. Still hanging on to some of the autumn colours. There's the nook, so you can see roughly where we are. We're stood at the side of Kathy's arbour seat, and the nook's just there. Again, another little man-made feature that looks good and only enhances the garden. Brilliant. I've had a little bit of a move around as well. I tend not to do it too early, but I like to do it in September, October, November time. I like to evaluate, but I'm evaluating all the time. But I like to get stuck into some bits that I think really do need moving, and this area's had a bit of a jiggle. I've been moving things around in this area all year because this is the newest border. So the whole section, so all the way down there, I've been messing about with. We'll have a quick talk about it. So some things have had to come out, some things have had to move, some things have had to change. I've had to take out completely. But that's what you've got to do. You've got to evaluate. Move things. Make it look better. Don't be scared to move something. People are too scared to move a plant. They think they're going to kill it, but you never do. And that one there is Millennia Storm Cloud. I still can't find any reference to it on the internet, so I suppose Somebody's found it as a seedling and just named it. I can't even remember where I bought it from. Probably a local gardener's fair that was going on. Probably bought it there. But it is a really nice, shorter plant. Millennia, beautiful. And then I took another Millennia from that section and put it here. There's a section here. I like this section actually. And that's an area that's been developing over time, and I kind of don't bring much attention to this area because it's not always looking good. It's mainly a spring border, to be honest, because of these ferns. The shuttlecock ferns there, the brown ones. Again, they're in death and decay, but they will come back. They'll bounce back lovely. And I'm hoping for lots of those to be in there. Every time I find a little plant which comes from the main plant, I move it a bit further away so that we can make the clump bigger. So there will be that little one there, that one there, that would have been a little baby off of that one there. And then what I do is I move them around, and it'll happen again this year or next year. And I shall keep moving them around, but I've planted a couple of other ferns in here. Oh, well, I've planted one other fern at the moment, the other one's waiting to go in. And this is a really nice fern. And it's a Bleccium chilense, and it really needs a bit of protection, so it's got it here. Put the label back, or I'll forget. I'll need to write another label for that, or we're going to end up losing it. But Bleccium chilense, it's a really nice fern that spreads around, requires a bit of protection, almost evergreen if the weather's correct. It won't die away, it'll be brilliant. And then I got hold of this one. This one has quite a story. Look it up on the internet, and it's a real beauty. Let's have a look at the name for you. Polypodum cambricum, and it's called Richard Kay's. Let's show you the label. There you go. And it has quite a story behind it. I'm not gonna tell you that story. I do know it, but it requires a little bit of explanation. Look it up on the internet. A very rare fern indeed. And that's going to go in there. It's ideally suited to be in those rocks. And in actual fact, I believe it was originally found on a rock scree or on a rock face somewhere. But you look it up. Beautiful. Just love it. It has this lovely look about it. Very nice, very unusual for a fern. And it's the spiky bits on the edge. And it is sterile. So it can only spread, but it does have a spreading rootstock, which will be good. So I've got to give that time. So it's looking really nice, really nice. Evergreens again. Let's go back to evergreens. You've got to get evergreens in the garden. If you don't get evergreens, winter will be a bit of a sad visitation in this garden. I like evergreens. They offer a lot. They're kind of forgot about as summer approaches. They kind of melt into the background and disappear. They're always there, but they disappear. And then once everything starts dying away, up they pop again. They kind of come into your conscious. They do mine anyway. I love this Pinus. This is Pinus mugo, one of the Pinus mugos, and I tell you from time to time that this can make a 12-15 foot pine if you let it, and I'm letting it get bigger. I want it to probably be 15 foot, but I'm controlling how it grows. I'm controlling the way I clip it, or I'm controlling it by the way I clip it. But you've got to be very careful because you don't want to be taking off the wrong plant. But as I've said previously, the worst thing that can happen is you make a wrong cut and it has to grow back again, or probably won't grow back, but it'll grow back a different way, and often that can be interesting anyway. I've got a couple of these in the garden. This is the better one of the two, to be quite honest. The other one is a lot denser because I ain't done as much work on it yet. But it's an evergreen, so up it pops when everything else dies away. But at the moment, nothing's dying away that much because I have so many grasses in this garden. And that's what makes the garden look nice. I love it. And talking of grasses, this is China clover rubra. I've had a move here. You probably will remember, well, you probably won't actually, but the keen-eyed of you will realise I've taken two of those buxus out, which is, you could say, well, if you're looking for evergreens, then why have you taken them out? Well, because I wasn't happy with it. I wasn't happy with this corner. It was starting to look a little bit rubbish. And my intention was to have 3 of them, which I did have, and I was going to cloud prune them, make them into sort of some cloud pruning formation, and that was going to look nice. But I decided, you know what? I like the shape of that buxus behind it, the edge itself, because it curves round. as it does there. And I thought that's going to be spoiled, so I had a changeover. And again, don't be afraid to change. I'm never afraid to change. And I put the China Claw Rubra there, which in itself is an evergreen, so that's fine. Beautiful grass. I've got several of those around the garden. Absolutely beautiful. I love them. Oh, let's go back to this section because we didn't really explain what we'd done here. So there's the other pinus in the background, as you can see. Yeah, there's the other pinus, and that is looking superb. And I have already taken 1 or 2 little bits away. I'm waiting a bit longer into winter before I do another prune of that, because there are things I want to lift its skirt, basically. I like plants growing underneath, which there is at the moment, you can see, finally developing underneath. But I have had a move around in this area. I've resisted moving that. Once or twice I wanted to move that plant, that pinus. I changed my mind each time. I'm glad I did. I like it. Even at this stage I could move it. I wouldn't have a problem moving that. But behind it we've got the great Arundodonax macrophylla. Look at that. And I tell people that this can become a big clump if you let it. But it's very well behaved as a clumper. So it slowly gets fatter each year, and fatter in the clump or wider in the clump. Call it what you will. But there's the bit I took off. And I had a move around. So there are plants I put in other parts of the garden that were okay where I put them because they suited the area that I did put them in, but they weren't correct. I just dumped them in there because I needed somewhere to put them at the time because I want them to develop. This being one of them. And this is a lovely Vernonia. And it's a Vernonia fossiculata. And I tried explaining that. I thought it meant false or something like that. It doesn't. It means flower heads or dense flower heads, something like that. So the seed heads look fantastic now. In fact, I could collect those and grow some from that. In fact, I might do. I've never tried growing this one. I quite like it as a plant. I can't have too many plants because it's space really where to put them, but it's going to look really good there, and I've put it next to that post because of its upright habit, so it will suit really nice. I've now planted this Pittosporum, an evergreen, another evergreen, and it's looking good. That's called Margaret Turnbull, a little bit more tender than most, but hopefully it'll be okay there. So we moved that as well. We took away another plant that was a big sprawling plant here called Dormia, which is now, you can't make it out. It's right there, that little bit there, that's it up there, and it's going to do brilliant in there. It gets enough sun in there to be able to grow well and to spread itself out because there's plenty of space for it now. So it's going to look a lot better there. And we've got a Veronicastrum virginicum here, album. Or is it albus? I can't remember, but it don't matter, it's not important. But it's a white variety, and it was tucked back where that Dormia is, in the wrong place. But at the time I planted it, it was in exactly the place it should be. But remember, the garden is developing now. Gardens develop and they move on and change and grow, and we need to do something about that. If something isn't looking good at that time, then we need to move them. And it does look good where it is. It's next to this Verbena bonariensis. And this Verbena bonariensis has been in here for 2.5 years. It hasn't died away. I cut it back and it keeps coming back. It's called Buenos Aires. It's beautiful. It seems to seed true as well, which is good. I've also put a seedling of Brunera back there, and that's a seedling from Alexander's Great. I think you know what I'm talking about, that one there. And it's looking good. So that's been moved into there, to the ideal location. And evergreens. Cortaderia is an evergreen. Still looking good. Still looking good. And then the cloud pruning looks good. Another designer's trick here. The cloud pruning picks up on this. This Ponticum. It's called Raponticum centraudes. And it picks up on it because this has this weird look at this time of year. In fact, it has a weird look at every time of year, but it's a really pink flushed flower when it actually grows in the summer. That's pink, usually. But I've picked up on a little design trick there. Match it up with this. And also this here, this structure, which also picks up on it. Now, I bought that, but originally I built one of those for the show when I was on Gardener of the Year. And I mention it from time to time because I always feel that should be attributed to me because I actually invented it. And I see it all over the place now, this. I made a massive one of these. and now I've had to buy one. But anyway, so let's take a walk down here, see what's going on. Everything's looking pretty good. Back to Evergreens again. We're nearly in euphorbia time. In fact, we are in euphorbia time. Wolfenii eyes looking absolutely brilliant. So here's Malachi from the back, and I'm waiting for the colour that I know it takes on those edges to appear, and they're not there again. They've disappeared. They did start coming in when it started turning cold, but then we got this warm spell and it disappeared. And here's what I believe to be one of the parents, which is purple and gold, and this was doing it, and it's lost all of its colour as well. It was starting to turn purple on those tips, and it disappeared. So as soon as it warms up, it goes. That's what I said before. But as soon as the cold comes back in, that will change. It will go back again. More changes. Look, more changes. Another pinus. I love that pinus. That's called Green Tower, and it makes quite a sizable plant. I think 10-15 foot. Beautiful. Love it. Other plants. Oh, this Achinocloa, it's just looking stunning now. Colours are amazing. In fact, it's not looking as good as what I'm seeing. It's more orange than is appearing on there, but nevertheless, it looks nice. I look forward to winter in this area because this snakebark maple takes on better colours in the branches. It gets more intense the colder it gets. I've already done a little bit of pruning with this because I've had to, because there's been some crossing branches going where I don't want them. But this is a good time to reevaluate that plant because you can see where it's headed. All right, before we go any further on it, look at that colour. Isn't that amazing? You've got to agree that's amazing. I love it. It's like a burnt orange. They've been better than that, but it's lost most of its leaves now. So yeah, going back to the pruning, you need to reevaluate, and there is probably a major limb going to have to be removed, and it's probably that one. I'm not happy about that at the minute, so I'm leaving it alone. But to be quite honest, it would benefit if I took that off, and I think I am going to have to take it off. I like to see odd numbers, and even on branches I like to see odd numbers. Now you can see there's 5 there at the moment. Now if I take that branch off, there's going to be 4. It's going to really annoy me. It's going to mess about with my OCD like you won't believe. But anyway, it may have to come off. It may have to come off, but it will be worth it in the end. Now every now and again I look through my videos that I've done on YouTube, and I watch them to see if I can improve the way I do them now. And I saw this on a previous video that I'd taken probably 2.5 years ago. And I'd forgot how tiny this was when I planted it. It was no bigger than the euphorbia behind it. That euphorbia there, it was no taller than that. And now it's what, 7 foot? Easily. Reaching up to 8 foot now, but it looks fantastic. But it's all time. With plants like this, you've just got to wait and never rush it. Just take your time with it. But eventually that is going to be a beautiful plant, and the idea for that plant is for it to cover this section here. It's to give me a little tunnel effect, which part of it's doing at the moment. It's coming across the path, which is what I want. So in time, that's going to look good. And it's going to cause a problem of its own in the future as well, remember, because that's going to leaf up and it's going to cause a bit of a shady area wherever its shadow is. But we'll deal with that as and when. Moved a few more plants in this area. There's 1 or 2 more I'd like to move, to be quite honest, in here. I'm happy overall with this area, but originally I had a little pathway running down here. Just a little path that ran straight across there, straight down to the decking, and I quite liked it at the time, and I've been walking up and down here thinking, should I reinstigate that? Because sometimes we make mistakes, we take things out we shouldn't have done, and etc. But it can be fixed. We can make mistakes, but we are allowed to fix those mistakes as well. We don't have to live with them, luckily, in gardening. So I may put that back in. I don't know. I really don't know. A lovely hellebore there, that one there, Helleborus argutifolia, beautiful. Absolutely lovely, love it. Here's another China Cloa rubra. You can see why I love it. The size of that, beautiful. Probably could have done without the Acniferum calamagrostis grass there with it. It doesn't really need it, but that was a baby plant, and again, it was a seedling, that one, so I left it there. And it does look good, but to be honest, they're too close together. They really do need some separation. So I could possibly take that away, and I could put it where this sorbus is, because this sorbus really is not performing for me. It's called Raven's Bill. It's supposed to be a lot taller than this, and it just doesn't seem to want to get going. And I suspect I'm just putting it in the wrong place. Why is it called Raven's Bill? There you go. Because that is the new sheath over the new leaves, and they form like a raven's bill. Looks great, I love it. But yeah, that Acniferum, that grass, just, it's beautiful. But maybe that would suit to come here on this corner, because it is quite upright, that one. It can flop, as you can see. It can flop like that, but I don't think it caused too many problems. But we'll give that some thought, because I've had other ideas with that Acniferum. We may put it somewhere else. Who knows? Who knows? But overall, fairly happy with this area. Let's have a look at it from here, so I can show you where the path used to come down. And it used to run through here. It used to run through this section here. And what I did after I took the path out was I put some telegraph poles down there, some half ones or quarter ones in a row, so I could see where I used to have it, just to give it a little bit of interest. And over time we've taken those out as well. That bamboo's looking fantastic now. It's getting very big. It is a robusta, but it is Fargesia, so it will remain in its clump. A bigger clump. It looks bigger than it actually is. The clump itself is only about 2.5 foot. If you go to the base of it, and it's an umbrella type. I think it's an umbrella type anyway. Bamboo that just sprawls out a little bit, so it splays out like that. But overall, this is looking good, because this is doing what I wanted it to. Oh, I just got the fragrance from that viburnum then. It just wafted into my nostrils. It smells gorgeous. It makes me laugh, actually, because a lot of people buy plants for winter and for the scent, and then they never go out in the garden to smell them. They just plant them and leave them, and they just get too cold, and they just don't bother. And you're missing a trick if you don't do that. You really are missing a trick. Get out in the garden and smell it. Get some of these fragrant plants for winter. They do bring in late pollinators, and any pollinators that are zipping around at that time of year will thank you for that. So this border's looking brilliant, looking absolutely superb. Now, I watched Gardener's World last night, and I note that finally they've seen this plant, which is Elianthus orgialis, and I've been keeping this for years, and I keep telling you to get this one, and suddenly they say, oh yeah, it's beautiful. They've sort of come onto them now because of the size. I love it. It's beautiful. Even at this time of year, it has a lot to offer. The seed heads as well. The flowers are all but gone. There's one or two straggly ones, but basically they've gone. But it's a brilliant plant to have, and it is a salicifolius. It's salicifolius orgialis, so bear that in mind. Not that you need to. That Cortaderia, that's Patagonia, the one I popped in because I want it to fill that whole area, and I know from up at the house that's going to look fantastic in the spring. This border's looking good. It's got some evergreens in this one as well. There's my own Malachi again. Can I see any coloration in it? No, they've all disappeared as well. I'm just waiting for a cold snap, a real cold snap. We will get that eventually. We are in November. By the end of November, things will really start cooling off, and a lot of the garden will die away, and some of it won't. Some of it will stay pretty good. Seed heads, look. Seed heads again. It's a sanguisorba. Blackthorn, it's beautiful. Still doing its thing. Still looking good. Phormiums, evergreen again. And Viburnum Davidi, looking good. There's 3 in there, believe it or not. Very squat, this particular plant. This is how it should look. This is a good A good looking viburnum Davidi. Oh, 3 good looking ones. I noticed we've got a buddleia there, one that I collected years ago from out of a garden that had been abandoned, and I took a cutting, and I've managed to keep it going ever since. And I think it's Lochinch, but I can't be 100% sure. And it's in the wrong place. It's totally in the wrong place. Has been for ages, and I keep saying I'm going to take it out. I haven't taken it out yet. Still there. So I must do something about that. I think what I'm going to have to do, because buddleias don't like to be moved at that size. In fact, most of them will die at that size if you try and transplant them into another area. So it's better to wait and take cuttings and grow them on, and then from that should be all right. You can be able to get it going, put it somewhere else. But it's in the wrong place. I'd like to see the gap back there and put something more appropriate. Even this Elliborus agutifolius would look better in that section rather than where it is now. Well, it looks good there, actually. What am I on about? I mean, what I mean is I could do with finding another one and putting it there instead. It would be better suited. We'll see. We'll see. It's all exciting. Now, the one thing I'd like to say to you all is consider getting this. That elder at the back there, that's Black Tower. The leaves are amazing. We are now into November. I've seen the first signs of it dying off at the top now. The colour's starting to go. So by the end of November into December, all them leaves will just be gone. They'll just drop. But up to then, they're perfect. They look good. They look good in the long border, which is where we are there. It's a very nice plant. I've took loads of cuttings from it. I love putting it in, because it has a lot to offer, and it doesn't take a lot of space up really. The space is in the height, and we've all got plenty of height above the gardens, but that one sits in nice. Because it's called Black Tower, obviously it stays skinnier. It has the odd little branch that splays out, which I remove, but apart from that, very good plant. Evergreens, Pittosporum, here we go, look at that. I've been messing about with it again. Look, took its skirt up yet again. I took some major limbs off that, to be quite honest. I say major limbs, they're only little at the minute, but I took them off because I want it to be taller. And I could have kept that as a full shrub. That would have gone all the way down to the ground. But I'm looking for interest in this garden, so I mess about with things. Make them look more interesting, and it does. Oh, the thing I forgot to mention about this miscanthus is it's there. It wasn't there before, can you remember? We had just grass here, if you remember. Let's go from this side so we get a better view of it. So there you go, it's that section there, and I kept looking at that section, and it's annoying when you cut the grass. It really does get on my nerves because I can never get the lawnmower into that corner. Another reason for getting rid of grass. But I couldn't get it into that corner, so I just bit the bullet last week and I dug that corner out and planted that miscanthus. And it's going to look superb in the future. It looks a bit lopsided at the minute, but that's my fault because I took a split last year of that, and instead of lifting it and splitting it out of the ground, I did it in the ground. Not always a good move, that. Really, you should lift them out and then put forks back to back and split them that way. That's a better way. I didn't on that, so hence it looks a bit lopsided. You can't really see that on camera, but it is. Take my word for it. Border's looking pretty good still. And I'm expecting this corylus to drop its leaves anytime soon. They're already starting to turn. It is one of the last ones to lose them. And I have to deal with this, the wildlife dip pulls once it drops. I always say I'm going to put a net over I never do. I always end up getting the leaf blower out and getting the net and taking out the leaves. Probably a better way in my opinion. Fagus sylvatica, Dowett Gold, now starting to lose its leaves. It's starting to develop really nicely, that. Again, I like skinny trees. They don't take up a lot of room. Now that is set to go to about, I'd say 25, 30 foot. But that doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter. I'm going to live with that. It's going to look really nice in the future, that. Somebody's going to get the benefits of that. I won't in my lifetime, but it's going to look great. Let's just hope they don't chop it down. And I say that because I've had other gardens where I've been back to and they've chopped trees down that were supposed to be the stars of the show. Ah, well, there's no accounting for taste. That's a betula. The silver birch, beautiful. The Himalayan birch. And I always say that the colour on this one isn't always good in the leaf, and they're supposed to be because they go to a yellow really quickly. This one never has up to now. I noticed the other day it was looking fairly yellow, but not yellow as it could be. But I don't worry about that because I grow it for that. And it's starting to green up again. because we are approaching winter. This is what happens, but it's looking nice now. 4 years ago that hardly had any white in it at all, and now it's completely white. When you buy this type of plant, this is what you're going to see. You're going to buy one like that and it'll say it's going to turn white, and you never believe it. Or when you're new to gardening, you wouldn't believe it, but it does. It ends up becoming this. Beautiful. And if you wash it down, it looks even better. And I've had silver birches in every single garden I've ever had. I wouldn't be without a silver birch. Beautiful, fast growing. The only tree you're likely to see come to maturity in your lifetime. But it is true. Yeah, that's looking nice, isn't it, that euphorbia? Looking very nice. Oh, I just noticed the price on this Fagus sylvatica, £41. I'll tell you what, you'll not get that for £41 anymore. They've practically doubled the price. And when I bought that, it was about that size. That was the thickness, sort of 3 stems about that big. And it only reached about 3.5, 4 foot. Now look at it, or is it 8 foot? Beautiful. The colours are lovely, aren't they, in that? Look at that. It's just beautiful. I know not everybody likes that kind of colour, but I do. I like it. Autumn's Decay. Beautiful. So interesting. People don't look at things like that. You get some people who just like flowers and that's it. You're not going to convince them there's any other type of gardening but flower gardening. But if you open your mind up a little bit and just experiment, you will get this kind of thing. So it's all looking rather nice. But evergreens, must consider evergreens. Another Taxus piccata, but that's Standishii. So if you're looking for something small and slow growing, that is a perfect choice. Looking good. And it's got another geranium here. I know this is Bill Wallace, and it's flowering again, and it self-seeds around, and that's what I wanted, and it's doing it, thank God. I've got an arbutus here. The little shrub there will grow quite nicely over time. Just got to give it time again. Got quite a few shrubs in this garden now, I realise, but I like them. And there's another elder, look at that. That's from a cutting of mine that I took 3 years ago. Look at that, 7, 8 foot now. Looking really good. I do a bit of pruning from time to time, as I said earlier. There's a bottom on there, like a good example there. Look, that's coming off. That'll come off through winter. It's better to leave them till the leaves drop, and then you get a better judge of it. You'll see that it's heading in the wrong direction, so we need to lose that. And there's the mother plant. Look at that. It towers above everything else. That's why they call it Black Tower. It's beautiful. And it keeps looking beautiful. And when those leaves have gone, it's got the skeletal form, so it looks good as well. Oh, we've still got some roses. Look at that. The roses are still continuing to flower. And that's beautiful. And this particular rose does grow on new growth. The roses themselves come onto the new growth. I've got to do a lot of pruning on this because, as you can see, I'm still bending it around the actual structure itself, but it's getting there. And that's beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. I've got 3 or 4 roses on this thing, as you know. I was looking at a video again where this was quite new when I first built it, and there was just absolutely nothing on it. It's changed so much in that time. The dovecote's doing well, looking good. And then this is an area that I'm likely to have a bit of a change around in at some point. I must improve it. It's more of a wildlife area. We're just waiting to see if this plum tree does anything. Secretly, I'm hoping it just dies away, because I'd rather do something else in this area. I could just chop it down, but I'm going to leave it for the moment, see what happens, give it a chance. Everything deserves a chance. And then the Cortaderia Evita, I hoped would flower, and I said it would flower, and it has flowered. Okay, 1 single flower, but hey ho, it looks good. It's going to become a bit of a sprawler, that one, but it nevertheless is a dwarfing variety. It's the sprawling, and the easy way to deal with stuff like this, just lift it in spring, late spring, lift it late spring, divide it, pop a bit back in, and carry on again. This is looking a bit messy at the minute, but I'm not bothered. Not bothered at the minute. There are one or two little changes going to occur in this area. That Rebecca being one of them. That needs to be removed. Then we've got Rosa Rugosa. Hang on, Des. And then we've got Rosa Rugosa looking good as well. And then everything's looking good. Okay. I'll talk to you on the next one. Ta-da.